Coffee with the Editor is proudly brought to you by IRZ and the Naledi Group of Companies, which includes Naledi Ringrollers, Composite Brake Components, and Naledi Foundries.
Good afternoon and welcome to Coffee with the Editor. This afternoon I'm joined by the Chairman of Naledi Holdings. Coffee with the Editor is proudly brought to you by IRZ, and I'm really pleased to announce a new sponsor for this month, Ringrollers. Welcome to Coffee with the Editor. Sibusiso, so nice to see you. Thank you for joining me.
It's a pleasure as always.
You've been quite busy. Some more acquisitions?
Just a bit.
Just a bit.
Just a bit.
So, DCD Metpro now belongs to your group.
Yeah.
You've renamed it Composite Brake Components, CBC. Yep. Tell me a bit about how that deal came to be.
That deal, when I was closing the deal of Ringroller, it's a company that was left behind. But I saw an opportunity on it because it actually talks to the tire business, because it's a braking shoe. Yes. For a trade. So I went back and made an offer to them. Just tussle there and there, yeah. And then the deal came through. So it just became a nice package. We then had a factory that does tires. Interestingly enough, new developments in our factory in Vernaching is that we've recently put in additional investment to polish the tire. We talked to the issue of localization. Because when we started with our contract, we were allowed for 36 months to bring in a completely polished wheel from our suppliers, but with a clear target that after 36 months we need to localize it. So the reason the 36 months did pass, maybe by a month or two, because we could not have sufficient money. I mean, everybody else knows what happened to Transnet. We were not necessarily getting work, but we went ahead. This is a very interesting story before I can relate that to the CBC, is that when we bought Ringroller, we bought Ringroller on the back of the contract that we were awarded by Transnet. Yes. But there were conditions that they would perform on specific quantities of wheels that would enable us to do a simple acquisition or a new build. But frankly, before Transnet contract could actually even kick in, we stayed for 18 months without even one single wheel from Transnet. Okay? But we were brave enough to raise the funding. We raised the funding to acquire that plant. After acquiring that plant, now look at those interesting timelines. 18 months, nothing. We were given 36 months. We were late by 1 month to localize. They freeze the contract.
So they dry you out for like 18 months.
They dry us out for 18 months.
Then you miss the deadline.
By 1 month.
And they freeze the contract.
They freeze the contract. But they've unlocked it again. But it's the kind of, in my view, of dishonesty when you deal with people that are not honest.
Yeah.
But we were brave enough to say, we know our main agenda is to achieve the issue of localization. But we had the support. You know, what's very interesting is that we had the support of people like Richard, the support of people like Toba, who's currently the CE. But those are people that you can look them in the eyes and say, guys, these are my challenges. They were very supportive. Much as they did nothing, but they were supportive. But we managed to come through it. We managed to, after acquiring the Ringroller, which the number that they made of their sale over a period of 24 months, we made it in 9 months. But interestingly enough, from where? International.
So good export opportunities.
Those are good export opportunities that we created through that company. Now, if in my view there was additional support without some shenanigans that one came across, I think we would have been 4 times that number. And you must understand, the number of turnover of revenue, when it increases, it also creates an opportunity of increasing employment. But that did not deter me, because my main objective is one, and one only. I do want to see a black-owned engineering company of significance. In Ringroller, we don't only do tires for train, we don't do a polishing of forged wheels, but we also do flanges. And again, I still have to deal with Transnet, who happens to import flanges. And the last I checked is that flanges were 100% designated product. So those are the kind of challenges I meet. But I've learned one thing. Being a crying baby does not help me. I have to soldier on and come up with solutions. So that is where we are now with that company, and with the honest leadership that has gone to Transnet, I know that we can be very useful to Transnet as a group. Put that one aside. Come to CBC. When you acquire CBC, it had a contract, just for argument's sake, with Transnet 2. For 18 months, the consumption usage in that contract was 3%. Oh yes, 3%. But because of the change of leadership and honest people that are there now, the volume has increased. And that has now created a situation where we could have a stable workforce in that environment. Okay? So my approach to the team has been, yes, consider government work as a plus, but it's not an alpha and omega. It does not make the company. The company sells everywhere else.
Yes.
And my team understood that. So that's where we are. Within the group now as a whole, we have a foundry that we have refurbished. Yes, the foundry, probably everybody else thought, something is missing in my head to buy that foundry, because it was a place, horrible equipment, horrible management, terrible working ethics. Okay? Everything was just, things fall apart. But what mattered to me was that fire coming out from those furnaces, that steel burning. I knew that we could turn this thing around. Probably this year we'll break even. Yeah, we'll break even.
That's been a significant investment. Eh?
That has been a serious investment. And one must not shy away to give credit to entities like IDC. You know, this takes me to the next platform when I want to talk about the issues of funding for black entrepreneurs. The IDCs of this world are there and very supportive. But I can tell you now, all my accounts are with private banks. IDC that does not run a private bank. What overdraft do I have? Zero overdraft. Let me give you a typical example. I needed an overdraft facility at FNB. Just give you a silly example. There's property that is worth 90 million that we said, okay, on the back of this, structure a facility that will give us a overdraft facility and everything else. They came back to me and said, we will give you 35 million. IDC must give a guarantee of 35 million. All the directors, even non-executive directors, must sign surety. These people are nominees to sit there. They must come and sign surety on behalf of Sibusiso Maphatiane. Then they stand there in front of the president and tell the president, we banks support black industrialists. Frankly, hell no. It doesn't happen. Okay? That's number one. Let me tell you this. I'm just about to lose a contract at Istanbul. All what you requested, Istanbul government said, we need this guarantee of this amount, which is about 2 million pounds, if I'm not mistaken. We passed the money to ABSA, the ABSA to create a facility that Istanbul can release that. Ask me how many months it took them. It took them 4 months. Has it been done? No, hell no, it has not been done. I'm about to lose a contract that would bring in export revenue. Now that's the support you get as a black entrepreneur in South African banks. So people don't want to talk about these things. But I'm not theorizing them, I'm living them. day in, day out. Now, that's the financial side of it. When people talk about...
Have you gone to ECIC? Because they're also supposed to give you assistance in terms of
the credit.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. They look at the company that I bought, which was Gastro. They don't look at the current entrepreneurs that has bought this. Then I'm held accountable for somebody else's mess. With everything, the change in everything and proof of documentation, let me tell you the bureaucracy for a business. You sit down, you sit here with me, and I know I've got quite a lot of friends who are white. They'll tell you, us white can't do business in South Africa. Let me tell you, blacks can't do business in South Africa because all the banks do not provide the facilities. You like it or not, I'm amongst the top echelon of the black industrialist. Banks effectively, the group revenue, are not kept in my backyard. Are in the hands of the bank. I don't even have one facility. Did I engage them? Yes, we engage them. We give them this, we give them this, give them that. I gave you those kind of scenarios that you need to do. We spoke to ABSA. They will tell you the story. We spoke to FNB. They will tell you the story. We're currently talking to Investec. Because my approach in life is that you don't give up. Somebody will break.
Yeah.
This leads me to the next debate that people are worried about when government talks about government bank. Let me tell you this. It's needed for people like us because the current 4 banks don't assist black entrepreneurs. I don't care what you provide, what kind of security. We run legit business. We run the legit business. Probably the Busasa had the biggest credit facilities, the Guptas had the biggest credit facilities, but us, zero. So please, for me, it's a tick for government bank because people like us can then operate smoothly. You know how quick my business could increase if I can get those kind of facilities.
Absolutely.
We work very hard.
And you have naturally the security that goes with it. So
No.
the land, the everything else. It's all
IDC
there.
released part of its security to say, go get the facility from the bank. We approach the finance corporation.
Yes.
It's probably 9 months now. Them still looking into that. Oh yes. Not only that, I still tell people, when you say IDC is low, let me tell you, talk to me, the person who submitted the application the same day at IDC and PIC. PIC, a month before the investigation, called me to say, can you come and do a DD? By that time, we have long completed the transaction. How many people would wait for you for 4 years to come and do a DD? Yes, that's what we had to go through. So for now, believe me, I'm saying to you, Minister Patel, because you give credit to the leadership, Minister Patel, the IDC team, are people that are prepared to go an extra mile. The rest of everybody, they must come and ask me. I will tell them the truth. There are certain things you can't say in camera, so I'll leave it at that point.
Okay, so let's talk about, am I allowed to ask you what you paid for DCD Metro? Am I allowed to?
I like to keep the numbers out.
Okay, I know Bianca's behind me. She's going to be shaking her head or nodding her head, I'm not sure. Okay.
I tell you the reason, you know.
So when did the acquisition go through?
It went through, okay.
It was last year, after
It was
Ring
last year.
Road.
But here's an interesting thing. It's not as if it took short. It took us 26 months
Okay.
through IDC.
For the DCD Metpro?
Yeah,
Okay.
no, only for DCD.
Okay.
Metpro was bought separately.
Oh, alright.
Yes. So Metpro came, I think, 2 or 3 months
yes,
later.
afterwards.
Yes.
Okay.
So the DCD transaction, Ringrollers,
Yeah.
it took us 26 months. And again, it had its own challenges because I had a foundry that needed to be turned around. But you also understand the founder becomes jittery. What people tend to misunderstand is that when Sibusiso does this acquisition, they look at Sibusiso as an individual. Sibusiso is an entrepreneur. But there's one thing that I've learned very fast in business. I can't do everything. I get the best skills.
Yeah.
Okay. One thing I'm good at and I enjoy and I do it bloody damn well is to sell, is to lead my sales team. So I lead my sales team. I'm not the chairman that sits into a corner. Okay, I lead my sales team. And my sales team, probably the skills of being a lecturer and a teacher, it's not only about numbers, it's about how you make the team to work together in a cohesive manner. So that's my role in the company. The volumes, the revenues that I've indicated are revenues that we generated when we took over that. So that's what I do. But in these other places, I make sure that we get the best there is in the market. You minimize your risk very easily by making sure that you get the right kind of skills. Your challenge is in the process of looking around. There are people there. You need to be patient enough. But people say, no, you've got to go on interviews. And so I don't subscribe at an executive level to go on interviews. I headhunt. Look for the best fit and bring it in. Then the next level, you can begin to bring in different skills underneath. But you don't want an executive team that there's no best fit. So that's what I do. One of the mistakes of companies or up and coming black entrepreneurs when they get funding, the funder tend to make a mistake and say, you must keep the previous management. Rule 1, nobody's going to sell you a business that makes profit. Don't be fooled by anybody. Show me one that has sold a business that makes profit. Nobody's going to do that. So chances you're going to get a business that does not make profit. And then who are the people that drives that business? Is that management? So if they could not make it work, what makes you think they're going to make it work for you? So my role is 1, get rid of them. Bring in the management that can talk to you, can understand your vision, and can work with you. You tick that box, you're on your way.
DCD Ringrollers took 26 months. Then you did
Metpro, let's say 3 months, 3 or 4 months down the line.
All right, and it's through all the competition commission. It's now fully branded.
Yes. The Ringroller was done
Yeah.
through competitions board and everything else.
Have you made? I mean, I was last at the Ringrollers facility in 2016. Have you made any new investments there? Or
Yeah, we have. Remember, Ringroller did not have the capability to polish a whole black wheel.
Yes.
Now we've made that investment.
All right.
So it's there.
That's interesting because I mean, Ringrollers, you could. I mean, what I saw was the cast product coming out, it being pressed, all the robots. I mean, it's quite fantastic. And then it goes into the, I want to say cooler, but I'm sure that is it the cooler? Big plunge pool. Then it comes out. So I didn't realize you couldn't polish that.
No, they could
is
polish.
That different?
No, they have the polishing machine. Okay, that's what we call a tire. There's a forge. It's bigger than it's still all of it.
Okay.
So they could only polish specific ones, but that one they could not. It needs different equipment.
Okay.
So, but we bought that equipment, so we're good to go.
Good to go. How many people are now employed at Ringrollers?
It's 180. My target is that to put a third shift in that, which might add almost about 50, let's say between 40 and 50. But when it comes to the issue of the personnel, I've got a very unapologetic strategy and view. We've got Valtech on that side. Where do I expect those engineering students to go to? Where? Therefore, my main agenda and main objective, I'm setting up the thing with a clear view. The guys that retire are not replaced by retirees. There's this thing of calling back the retirees, guys coming and saying, no. Bring in that young talent and plow it there. My management team is all young. Next level of production managers, it's all young. They speak the same language. It's youngsters.
Yeah.
And the agenda is clear. I want to make sure that all my companies are run by youth. I'm not going to be apologetic when people say, I'm unemployed, but I did not go to school. Let me tell you how many graduates that have come out of school. They are sitting at home. They're engineers. I'm setting up those things for them because I do not expect them to go anywhere else. For me, the little contribution I can do in my own little corner,
Yes.
when we talk about South Africa for everybody, is to make sure that that youth, black and white, are absorbed into that space. And then they start creating a culture of understanding each other from the little space I own. And then they take the things to the next level.
The Ringrollers 180 composite brake components. 50?
50, which is basically, for me, I take an easy way out. I call it a train brake shoe. So, everybody says, you just handling it a bit rough. I said, what does it do? It breaks the train. We have a testing facility there. Probably the only one that manufactures a braking component in South Africa. The only one.
Okay.
Probably the only one in Africa. We have the facility there. You'll have the privilege of going there to see us testing how this thing works. We literally run a train, simulate it, actually, and then it applies the brakes and everything else and gets tested. And people that are running that development team, it's young girls and young boys.
All right, so let's now talk about the foundry.
Yes.
Okay. Hey, the foundry.
Yes.
You were very brave. I have to tell
Brave
you.
is an understatement.
Yes.
Yes.
And I can understand why everybody thought you might be a little bit crazy.
Cuckoo.
Cuckoo, yes. And, you know, South Africa had one of the best kind of, I would say, foundry environments. I mean, we had in excess of, or close to 300 foundries.
Yeah.
I think we may be down to a handful now.
Yeah.
In a very short space of time. So let's call it 5 years.
Yeah.
The industry is dead.
Yeah. But let's look at the cause.
Let's hear your thoughts
Okay.
on that.
You know, a very interesting presentation was done by a lady from DTI called Metsi. I looked at her and said, she's as brave as they come. She took a slide and when we were in Parliament, showed the parliamentarians that, let's say, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, were on the positive export of the foundry components. A year later, we're 9 billion on imports.
And that's what's designated.
9 billion. Now, that was during the era. I'll leave it up to you. It's not as if there isn't work in South Africa. The foundries in South Africa were never killed because of lack of work.
Oh, no.
Were killed because of greed of people that wanted to import things and create employment in China and create employment in India. So we have to reverse that. But people have gone out. You know, people are so brave that even in the current scenario of what is taking place, they still go to DTI and motivate. There is no company that exists that does these kind of components. The foundry has an automated GF line. The foundry has a flow molding. The foundry employs 250 people. The foundry can do up to a 14-ton weight product. There's no shape that we cannot do. But we end up having to settle for products that they go and buy, for argument's sake, your brake drums from China, and they expect us to compete with the Chinese price, which everybody knows they get subsidies. But those that matters most, those that you will get from your Transnet, your Eskom, all these other companies, they import them. Surely, if my production line is going to be preoccupied by clients that are loyal to me, that give me a product that I make 1 cent to them, you on the day you decide you want to give me one product and I must stop everybody for you, life does not work that way. No, life does not work that way.
Because there's volumes and there's
Yes, that's
economy of
volumes.
scale.
You've got to do that.
There's processes.
For me, all what it needs to do, if customs can do
Their job.
what they are employed to do, in those harbors, we can recreate employment like this and stop all these products that are brought into this country when we have the ability. What annoys me is the fact that some of the products are designated.
Oh yeah.
Okay? I'm not saying let's be naive and think we're living in isolation, but we can't allow designated products. So you go against government regulations to bring a product. Okay, how many people are we costing their jobs in the process?
So what I find frustrating is that this is a topic, this localization and designation and the inputs and all of it. I find it extremely frustrating. We've been talking this for many years, okay? You've bought your business on the back end of that.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
And you should be, by now, laughing all the way to the bank. Not by doing a bad job, by doing a good job, okay? And, creating local employment and enhancing manufacturing and being competitive. If you had those volumes, you would be as competitive as China if you were producing those kind of volumes. I still don't understand why we continue to have this conversation that this stuff isn't happening. What is DTI doing about it? And DTI was at the Railroad Association's AGM and she stood up there and she spoke, and I'm like, I remember a few years saying, there's no point thinking about this, because by the time you've thought about it and by the time you put the action down, the money is gone, the jobs are gone. Are you finding more response from the DTI?
Here's a very interesting thing. I will tick a positive box for those ladies at DTI. They're doing a brilliant piece of work. Where we need to go is the implementation agents.
Yes.
Because legislation is there. We can't expect those ladies to go and stand in those harbors. We can't expect those ladies to supervise and monitor people that go and issue government contracts and go and try and motivate against the existence of a particular industry. Say, no, these kind of people don't exist. Let me give you a typical example. China Rail. China Rail, I probably have gone through them they've come in and did interviews, audits in my factory, because they went to DTI and said, there's nobody produces this. But did I actually end up getting any work from them? Zero. The last work I heard that there's a contract that they are preparing that might be successful. When they presented to me, I just laughed at the sales guy and said, really? A contract of 9 million over a period of 5 years? What are you trying to do? Who are you fooling? Me or yourself? I said, tell them to keep their contract. They want to take they come to your company. They are very good at taking photos, because they want to take those photos to DTI and say, you see, we're in this company, we're with Sibusiso Maphatiane, we're going to be working with him. Hell, I'm not a joke. I don't fall for silly jokes. We're either there to do the right thing, okay?
And to do business.
And do business. Your Gibelas, I don't know how many audits I've done with Gibela. I care less to count, okay? I care less to count. Fact of the matter is that they will tell you how of other international contracts they've signed before this deal was closed. You need to go and talk to that other international company to give you the South African portion. Hell, come on. I don't do that. And I refuse to do that. But these things are things that need to be said. I owe nobody a favor, because I know what I'm doing is right for South Africans. I'm here to create employment for the South African youth, and I'm here to make sure that our revenue is used for purpose of expansion. You know how many downstream entities you can create? People talk about youth employment. People talk about township economy. It's good intention from the politicians. It's a bad intention from the officials, the implementers. People talk about life audit. I wonder when are they going to start with those life audits and see what takes place. Frankly, to say it in the least Afrikaans way, it's hurtful. We've got to start doing the right thing. We've got to start saying the right things.
Let's talk about the product. Let's talk about the products that you supply to the rail industry. And where are you exporting to? That sounds really exciting.
Export to Europe.
So you're exporting
I've got all
rail products
Yeah.
that are manufactured here.
in South Africa.
You are exporting to Europe.
It means
So
that
if it's good enough for Europe, why is it not good enough for local?
you
Oh,
ask
dear.
the question.
I'm going to get you started again.
You ask the question. We have all the compliances.
Yeah.
We can't export to Europe without meeting all these many criteria of theirs. What works for me is a situation where people at Transnet, they'll ask you for an AAR approval.
Yes.
What happened to SABS? So we go and kill it,
Yes.
and then we expect to apply other standards that might not be good enough for us, but for the South African condition and products. But okay, we take that product and go and certify that. Say, you know, how much does it cost to go and certify that product? There,
How much?
nothing less than $1 million.
What do you make for rail? In your group, what are you making for rail?
We're making tires
Yes.
for rail.
And that's for passenger.
For that is for passenger. Okay, we are also now polishing black wheels. That's for local. And then we are doing brake shoes, tram tires, or do brake shoes for that. Let me take one step back and tell you that I was asked to do 7 samples for your yoke, your I can't remember all of them. Couplings.
Yeah.
No, I did them. They approved them.
Okay.
I spent 3 million. That was 2 years ago. I still have them in my workshop. Ask yourself how many yokes and couplings have been imported.
More than 3 million.
Even the company that was awarded that tender could not manufacture those couplings. There's the
Sure.
founder that did that.
And
But-
you signed that off?
Do I have a choice?
No, but I
When-
realize that.
When people have power, recognize that power and move on. Because guess what?
Yeah.
They are employed. I employ. I have factories. They will remain there. Their time is limited where they are abusing that power.
Yes.
Once they move out, people that have integrity would come in and they will support you. So I don't want to lie to you. There is people that have been very supportive. ESCOM, we supply ESCOM with the grinding media. They've been very supportive.
Oh yes, because you installed that last year.
Yes, we installed that heat
Fantastic
treatment.
machine, yes.
Yes, very supportive. Okay, now my next target is to go back to the mines in South Africa. Somebody gave me a rough estimate of the number of mines. I don't know how correct it was. Active mines were 1,008, something like that. Where do they get all their grinding media? Yes, you've got your score. Yes, you've got the others. But guess what? Go check how many imported it. It's a product that is there.
Yes.
We've invested so much on it.
The GF line was 125 million.
Yeah.
Smaller equipment, I suppose, was 20 million.
Yeah.
So, and that's for Foundry. That's a significant investment.
For Foundry, and then for the GF line, there was that upgrade of that.
Yes.
Then the heat treatment was that 20 million.
Yeah.
I know I'm now looking at a machine that is dedicated just for grinding media, because I'm using the GF line to produce the grinding media and heat treat them.
Okay.
So I'm trying to make sure that I can then have a fully dedicated equipment that is on the grinding media side, because I still want to challenge the mines. If my product is good enough for ESCOM to say it's classified as an A1 product, an A1 product simply means if that product is not supplied and is not operational, is not operating correctly, I can cause ESCOM to go on load shedding.
Please don't. It's problematic.
So as a point of correction, people must not think we cause the load shedding. So I'm saying, if they can give you a critical component like that, that's why I said I'm investing, and my challenge to again, we keep on talking about the SOEs. Let's talk about The same mines that the government said your procurement spend must be more than 30%. Not on coffee and tissue papers,
Yes.
but on significant products in the engineering space. You have no idea how much they will tell you, no, we've gone out in a contract for 5 years with who?
Yeah. No.
International companies.
What do the next 12 months look like?
The numbers look bloody good if I would still drive them and the team works as hard as they're doing.
Okay.
Yes. And I've taken a view. South African government business, South African business hates black entrepreneurs. That is why I'm saying to my team, let's focus somewhere else.
Yeah.
They hate us at home. They don't support us.
Yeah. So you may as well go find your customers?
I might just as well go find my customer somewhere else. But guess what? I love my home because I want to create employment at home. I want, when our president talks about Tumamina, I'm one of those who are quiet but who are listening to be tumat by the president. so I'm doing that. But with the change of any positive change that's going to come through to the country, I'm actually positive that things will get better.
Yeah.
Whatever damage was there, we can cry over spilled milk.
Yes.
But if we've got men and women that are brave enough to know this is the right thing that needs to be done, I think we'll get better. We'll resuscitate the industry.
Okay. Any more acquisitions this year?
Talk to me in 2 months' time. There is one in the pipeline.
Okay.
There is one in the pipeline.
Rail related?
Heavy engineering related.
Okay. All right. Don't give too much away.
No.
But I look forward to that.
Yeah.
All right. And I'm looking forward to taking you into Africa.
Okay. Let's do it.